When Final Fantasy VII released in late January of 1997, it took the video game world by storm. Role-playing games had existed for years up until this point, but this massive Square release opened up the genre to a new and hungry fan base. RPGs had the ability to be humongous and emotional roller coasters, and Final Fantasy VII was no exception. One of the most mind-blowing scenes in the game was an event unlike anything else seen by many new RPG fans up until this point: the death of a main character. The permanent death of a main character. The beloved and one-of-a-kind Aerith Gainsborough was outright murdered right in front of the player. The scene cemented the player's hatred for Sephiroth from that moment. It was an amazing scene. But longtime RPG fans had felt the sting of emotional loss previously. Permanent character death to advance the story had hit us many times previous to this. And in this video, I want to highlight some of these soul-crushing moments. Obviously, spoilers. Phantasy Star 2 is not only the oldest game on this list, but contains what may be the first major character death in any video game ever. In a game loaded down with both overt and covert character deaths, it is the death of party member and absolute sweetheart Nay that made my soul shudder. Nay is the first character to join you on your quest. A competent fighter in her own right, you have been protecting her for some time since the game begins. As the game progresses, you eventually meet the nefarious Nayfirst, a human biomonster hybrid and sister of Nay's who is responsible for the current outbreak of biomonsters. After a harrowing one-on-one battle between Nayfirst and Nay, Nayfirst emerges victorious, having murdered her sister in open combat. I was 12 years old. This scene still haunts me. Possibly my most played game of all time after Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, Shining Force 2 is a huge and sprawling strategy RPG with some wild and emotional moments. The moment that takes the prize, however, is the death of the greater devil, Odd-Eye. Early in the game's story, you take into your care a young blind man named Odler who is suffering from amnesia. The boy is soft-spoken and, despite his disabilities, is a positive and joyful companion. He eventually leaves your party to stay with an associate of the Force to hopefully heal from his injuries. The next time you meet him, he has regained his memories and reveals that he is a greater devil general named Odd-Eye. After a long and harrowing battle, you defeat the laser-shooting swordsman who, in his last moments, laments he couldn't have lived his life peacefully in your care. He then passes away. Suikoden's Ted is introduced very early on in the game as the main character's best friend. He follows Tyr on some of the game's earlier quests. The wizard Windy eventually discovers that Ted is bearer of the powerful Soul Eater rune and attempts to end his life so she can steal it. Ted relinquishes the rune to the player so Windy cannot retrieve it. Eventually, Windy uses the Conqueror rune to control Ted to try and kill Tyr and take the Soul Eater once and for all. It's only then, in this moment of despair, that Ted, who can't control his body but can control his mind, commits suicide by harnessing the Soul Eater, which is now in Tyr's possession. Ted's passing is cruel and sorrowful, but he successfully keeps the deadly rune out of Windy's hands. Another death in Suikoden is that of Odessa Silverborough, and this one hits a bit harder than Ted's. Odessa is the leader of the Liberation Army, a rebel group set to release the downtrodden from the iron grip of the wealthy and tyrannical monarchy. Her partner murdered and her brother forsaken, she runs the Liberation Army from the shadows. Tyr and friends eventually team up with her to fight against the Scarlet Moon Empire. During their quest to procure the powerful fire spears to fight the Empire, Odessa is murdered in front of you while trying to protect a young child from Imperial thugs. The love that the common people had for Odessa was so strong that her brother, now loyal to the cause, works behind the scenes to hide her death for 3 months to soften the blow and keep the army together. Odessa was a living legend cut down in her prime. This one hurts. Phantasy Star 4 starts on the dying planet of Matavia. For the last 1,000 years, the climate control computers that kept the planet green and thriving have slowly been breaking down. Motavia is slowly returning to a primordial desert. You play as Chaz Ashley, a young but determined hunter under the care of professional and renowned hunter Alyss Brangwyn. Despite the fact that Chaz is the main character, you can tell Alyss is the boss. She's always the one in the front, making decisions and keeping things moving. Chaz is clearly green and following in her shadow, and he knows this. Alyss is eventually brutally murdered by Black Wizard Zio. He uses a dark spell called Black Wave to try to kill Chaz, but she takes the hit, and the death isn't immediate. She lies bedridden while Chaz and the party seek out her old friend, the wizard Rune. After a few hours of in-game questing, you return to check on Alyss, only for her to die on your arrival. The shock of Alyss's death is twofold. Your mentor, your guardian, your mother died to save you. And her death was not quick. It was long and agonized. I was absolutely destroyed by this scene. And even thinking back to it now, 25 years later, still gives me goosebumps and makes my spine tingle. This scene was soul-crushing. R.I.P. Alyss. And that's my list. Did I leave anyone out? Surely I missed somebody. So if I did, tell me in a comment below. And if you liked this video, give it a like and a share. If you want more content, give us a follow and hit the bell. And lastly, if you have a few dollars in your pocket just burning a hole, hit us up on patreon.com/digitalpoutine to help support us. Thanks for watching, hug your cats, pet your friends, and never stop being nerdy.